All right, it says we're live. I'm gonna check YouTube real quick.
Okay.
I'm gonna check YouTube real quick. All right, yeah, we're going.
Cool.
All
All
right,
right,
first.
Shalom. Oh, go out. You
Um,
got it.
hey, first and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace and blessings to the elect out there that's pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. All right, this lesson is, as you can see, is called "Remember the Generation of Old," and we're going to be going into Ecclesiasticus, otherwise known as the Book of Sirach, the 44th chapter. And just going into the our founding fathers, if you will, our forefathers that are the progenitors of the nation of Israel, and the covenants that have been passed down, by them, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem El Shai. So without further ado, if you want to add anything to the intro, and just jump right into it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to this. The reason why it's so important to go over these things is if you think about, all the times, you may went into second period or fifth period, whatever period that you had in high school where they would go over, various topics of history. They never really touched on, what we're about to go into, concerning Israel's history because, the ones who was really uh, pertains to is the Israelites. The Bible talks about the history. If you go into, Chronicle, First and Second Chronicles, First and Second Kings, First and Second Samuel, various prophetic books, it's written from the perspective of Israel. So, and it also talks about the things that were going on in the nation at the various points in time. And so the reason why a lot of Christians don't know the history is because they are not taught the history. And so this is again, highlighting the importance of it because it lets you know that many people don't know, even though they say they believe in the Bible, they don't know the contents of it. So, I just want to give that little preface before we go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I guess we can touch on the points of the different uh, uh, accounts that it mentions, but we can just go straight into it. I can read if you want me to, or if you want to read, you can.
Yeah, I'll read for you.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
you want me to start at one?
Baba Kusha.
Um, Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 44, verse 1 says, "Let us now praise famous men and our
Hmm.
fathers that begat us."
Right. And so, I heard somebody ask before, what does it mean to when you say forefathers? And a forefather is somebody who is your, what you call an ancestor, but it's going back to your, your father through the lineage of your father. For example, if we can,
You want to
let
get
me go ahead and,
numbers?
yeah, yeah, it's a spirit. Yep, Numbers. Let me try to find it real quick.
1 and
Uh,
18.
yes, sir. Yep, Numbers one and is that? Yeah, I think it is. Yep,
You like
Numbers
that?
118. Yeah, okay, you got it, you said?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
this is
Baruch Shah.
Numbers chapter 1, verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers,
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls.
Right, so this is how what nationality you are from your father's lineage, going back to his father, going back to his father. So, the patriarchal lineage is what determines which nation you're from. And we have instances like the Book of Ruth, Moses' son, Gershom, so on and so forth, letting you know that hey, your lineage is determined by again who is your father's father, going all the way back to you know basically Adam. Everybody goes back to Adam, like the scriptures say. So people who say that they're mixed or whatever the case is, that's not an accurate. Yeah, you may have a woman of another nation outside of the nation of Israel that has a child from an Israelite man, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that seed of that child comes from an Israelite man. and it'll never change, no matter how many generations of heathen women are in the picture. That child is always going to be an Israelite. Same thing with the other nations. Whatever nation that the man is, if the woman is an Israelite, that man's seed is carried on through the woman's Israelite womb. It doesn't make the child an Israelite. It makes it whatever the father is. So I just want to touch on that. But yeah, so that's the first verse. It says, "Let us praise famous men, our fathers that begat us," because a lot of our forefathers, especially if you read in a lot of history books like the Book of Judges and so on and so forth, they they uh, they did miraculous things. So we can keep reading on that.
Come. Sirach 44:2. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding and declaring their prophecies.
Right. So, for example, you had men like Abraham. Abraham, the Lord was working with Abraham heavily on a high level, to where he called Abraham out of the land of Uz, and Abraham walked with the Most High. From there, he focused on fulfilling the will of the Most High. And when you read, uh, I'll say, following the chapters of when he's introduced, I want to say it's 11th chapter. I could be wrong. Let me see. Genesis. No, I'm sorry. The 12th chapter. Well, no. Yeah, he's introduced in the 11th chapter. Excuse me. But when you read about Abraham, when he was called out of the land of Uz, he traveled to various different cities, and he became prosperous in with the Most High. If you go, like, for example, here's an example in Genesis 13 and 1. It says, "And Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. And Abraham was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai." So again, the point is in verse 2. It says Abraham was very rich in cattle and silver and in gold. So he didn't just inherit these things. He came upon these things through the blessing of the Most High, and through the wisdom that the Most High gave him to maximize the situation. So think about things like that, and it helps me understand who we are as a nation. Naturally, we're supposed to be people that prosper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's what Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 is about. If we follow the law, statutes, and commandments, and all the blessings shall come upon us. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why men, generations of old, whenever they were righteous, in the eyes of the Most High, that's when the Most High dealt with them, and they became prosperous, like you said.
Okay, looking for this precept real quick. Oh, you had some?
I was just gonna keep reading chapter 44.
Okay, let me see if I can find this real quick. This is Psalms chapter 112 and verse 1. It says, matter of fact, could you read it, Baba Kusha? Psalms 112 in 1. Let me go back down to it.
This is Psalm chapter 112, verse 1. It says, "Praise ye the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon earth. The generation."
You see that? It says, blessed is the man that feareth the Most High. Okay? It says his seed. See that? How it goes? It's talking about the father, because a woman can't have seed. So what is this talking about? It's talking about the seed of a man is his sperm, and women don't produce that. So again, it says his seed shall be mighty upon the earth, and the generation of the upright shall be blessed. Now keep reading that in that Baba Kusha.
Okay. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever.
You see that? So the legacy of of his life really is going to be documented. You know, a man that walks with the Most High, and it's not going to be forgotten. You see, and so that's what this chapter again in Sirach 44 is talking about. Which, by the way, was written. Um, it wasn't even written all the way, towards the end of the New Testament. This was written closer to Solomon's lifetime. You know, and so
Yeah,
even up until that point, you had many men again during the time of judges, and even just the patriarchs of Israel, that got their accolades.
yeah, Khan. And if I can add too, the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus was written by three men.
Hmm.
It was written by, uh, uh, it started with, uh, well, his name was, Joshua, which is Yahushua in the Hebrew.
Hmm.
And then Sirach, it was passed down to his son Sirach. And then
Hmm.
Sirach, it was passed down to his son, who's also, his name was Yahushua as well.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
was, three generations, it took to write, the book of Sirach. So his wise sayings passed down to, generation, and they took those wise sayings and then added onto it, you know. And that's really, the whole scriptures. That's basically what it is. They remembered their forefathers, and their wise sayings, practiced it, and kept hold to it, and used it in their own, walk of life. Righteous men, cleaved unto those law, statutes, and commandments, used it in their own walk of life, and had their own testimonies and wrote about
Okay.
it as well.
So, like I misspoke when I'm reading the prologue. It says in the beginning of it, it says, "This man therefore lived in the latter times after the people had been led away captive and called home again." So, talking about the Babylonian captivity, and after almost all the prophets, which uh, pretty much after the Babylonian captivity, um, and then you had the Medo-Persian captivity. By then, most of the prophets in the Old Testament, had pretty much finished their books. So that's why it says after, almost after all the prophets. So yeah, it's just correction on that timeline thing. But yeah, so more so towards the end of the Old Testament, which was right around the time of the Medo-Persian Empire.
Come,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
come.
Yep. So yeah, so we can go back to that. If you That was all I had in Psalms 112.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so back in Ecclesiasticus chapter 44, verse 5, such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing, rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations.
It was at verse 5, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
verse
Yeah.
5 and
It says such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing. So again, an example of that is in First Samuel with David. You know, David played the harp, to Saul. And he wasn't the first one to come up with songs. Even for example, the Song of Moses. When we were delivered out of the out of the hands of the Egyptians. So multiple different instances of musical creativity. I mean, the Book of Psalms, a majority of those psalms were psalms of David. Matter of fact, yeah, it doesn't say Psalms 112 is particularly is one, but Psalms 110, it says it is a psalm of David, which a psalm is a song. So again, I'm looking to see that specific account where where David was playing the harp for. Okay, here we go. Let me see. Is this it? Let me see. Bottom
First
line.
Samuel 16 and 23.
Okay, yeah, I was making sure. Okay, yeah, I was looking for the verse. Okay, cool. Psalms,
Mm.
excuse me, First Samuel 16, and I'll start at verse 19. It says, "Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse and said, Send me David, thy son, which is with the sheep. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul, and a kid is a baby goat. It says, and David came unto Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. So David, at one point was Saul's armor bearer. It says, and Saul sent to Jesse, saying, let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from the Most High was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. So that shows you that music, of course, it is vibration by definition, but it has, spiritual remedies, man. To where it can calm and soothe the soul. A modern day harp is a piano. When you open up the what's the name? So he pretty much was playing the first types of piano. So our people were very talented, and this is history that Esau will never teach. He'll never teach that. If you Google a picture of King David, it's going to be an Edomite, so-called white man up there, to where he get the credit for all of that stuff. But it's historically it's inaccurate, man. Okay. So, but anyway, we can go on to it. Keep going on that.
Yeah, I'll read verse 6 again. Ecclesiasticus 44:6. Rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their times.
Yeah, man. Like, for example, if you read in Genesis, and these are all just examples, you kind of have to know the history to give examples. But for example, when you read about Joseph when he died in Genesis the 50th chapter, this is let me see, matter of fact, yeah. Let's see, okay, this is Genesis chapter 50, and you see here, I want to see where to start at, because it says that he was embalmed too. You know what I'm saying? I'll just read this in verse 7. This is Genesis chapter 50, verse 7. It says, and Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph, and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And so when you imagine, when Jacob had died, this was a it was a big deal. You know what I mean? It said that he lived to be, I think it was 110. I could be wrong. Yeah, 110 in Genesis 50 and 26. Matter of fact, I'll jump to that one real quick. Let me just make sure there's nothing in between here. Very good company. Okay. All right. This is Genesis chapter 50 and verse 26. It says, oh, that's Joseph. I'm sorry. Jacob. Okay, never mind. But yeah. So I'm sorry. So Joseph died at being 110. I think Jacob was actually older. But the point is, when Jacob died, it was a big deal. He said all the horsemen and the chariots came, and pretty much all the elders of the people came. So this wasn't just no regular guy. That's the point,
And also on his
and
also on his deathbed, Genesis the 49th chapter, that's when he gathered his 12 sons together and prophesied where they'd be at the latter days, in the end times right now. And that's where we get the 12th chart sign from. It's Genesis the 49th chapter. So yeah, that is a huge deal, because that's part of the two sticks coming together in the ladder end, and that's part of our history, and it's part of our destiny as well. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean the scriptures say, in what is that, First Peter, that we're a nation of kings and priests. And so that's one thing about the ministry, is that you realize that it's not just only about preaching the scriptures and things like that, but which is kind of fulfilling the priestly side of things, but the kingly side as well, which I'm looking for see here. I think it's the second chapter. Lively stones. Okay, here we go. Well, actually, holy priesthood. Okay, here we go. This is First Peter chapter 2, verse 9. It says, "But ye are a chosen generation. Ye are a chosen generation," and it's talking to us, those that's pushing His word in these latter times. A royal priesthood. Okay, so royalty. I mean, come on, man. We got to think about ourselves as royalty. We're not as the heathen is a lower grade of a human. You have a regular person, and then you have an Israelite, man. Okay, and when we understand in our minds that that can't be taken away from us because it's literally who we are. It's in our blood. We cannot be. We can never not be Israelites. If we're an Israelite now, we were an Israelite since the foundation of the earth through the Spirit. Okay, and so it says, of course, before Israel was a nation, we were the sons of God. And that's really what it goes back to. Okay, but the Israelites are the sons of God, and so it says, it says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Okay, so this isn't the specific one that says we're a nation of kings and priests. I think that's probably another chapter. But the point is made that we're special, man. Okay, and so this is not to be ignored, but I don't want to keep harping on certain points. I think we got the point on that. We can keep reading on Sirach though.
Yeah, I got a precept to back you up on that though.
Okay, Con.
This is Genesis 35, and I'm going to start at 10. It says, and the Most High said unto him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And the Most High said unto him, I am the Most High Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. And the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee will I give to the land. So the covenants that the Most High gave with Abraham, that he made with Abraham and with Isaac, is passed down to Jacob and Jacob only. So the promise that he made with Abraham that he was going to be, numerable as the stars, that's fulfilled through Jacob or through Israel. And it says a nation and a company of nations, which means basically one man can form a nation. And also kings shall come out of thy loins, meaning we're like we read in Second Peter's that we're a kingly nation, kingly and priestly nation. And it started with the generations of old. That's why it's important to look at the generations of old, looking at our forefathers and how they operated and how they handled certain situations, so we can arm ourselves likewise and carry on that righteous tradition, so that the Most High can still be pleased with his chosen people. Bouncing back to Ecclesiasticus 44, verse 8, it says, "There be of them that have left a name behind them, that their praises might be reported."
Which what we're doing today. Well, that's exactly what we're doing now, man. Moses lived thousands of years ago, but here we are still talking about him. Same thing with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Book of Judges. I mean, you can't take away the history that was written. It's already here. It's been printed millions of times. To where it's like, those names are in history, and those same spirits are, they're either back today or they've been back, in recent times, and they're standing for the truth, man. They're standing for what Yahweh Shem Yahushai wants to be pushed. Okay, so the same people that being made fun of for preaching the word and being looked at crazy and all this stuff are the same people that, if you were to read in the scriptures, you'll see some of those men. We don't know who's who. We don't know, we can't go down the list and name every person in 2021 who they are in the reincarnation, right? But it's safe to say that some of those men are here back here today, you know. So
Um,
so
um,
yeah, we keep going on that. About Kusha.
verse 9 it says, "And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished, as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them."
Right. So you had some men that weren't written about, but does that take away from the fact that they were there and they did the Lord's work? Absolutely not. You know, we read the following verse. It talks about those men, but
Mhm.
it says, it says some there be which have no memorial. So then, we don't know where they was buried at. They don't have the illustrious, um, burial sites and things like that. Things written about them of the things that they've done. But does that take away from the fact that the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, and that their works were recorded anyway? It doesn't take away from that fact. So, you know, uh, when we think about this, man, it's not just the 50 or 60 men that were mentioned in history, or highlighted, I should say, in the history of the scriptures. It was thousands of them, man. The scriptures talk about it's 5,000 men. I'm sorry, the men that had not bowed their knee to Baal. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick.
Mm.
Um, because you would think that it would just be Elijah, but no, it wasn't just him. Or that's what Elijah thought, but it was plenty more. It was plenty more. So then, it's First Kings. Let's see.
Yeah, I got another account too in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 41. I'll grab this real quick.
Okay, go
Uh,
ahead.
it says, then they that gladly received his word were baptized, and the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls. So this was in the time of Acts. And, we don't know exactly, those 3,000 souls weren't
There we go.
written about, or their ministry wasn't written about, but
Hmm.
it says that they, joined unto the church, and, they most likely, started preaching the word everywhere they went, and,
Hmm.
probably caught hell from the people that, received them not. So, it doesn't take away from the fact that those 3,000 men were righteous, even though
Right.
it's not written about.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, the men that were in the Maccabean army during the Maccabean revolt, all the names of those men that fought for the for the sovereignty of Israel. Their names weren't documented, but their deeds were noted, and in the Most High, again, remembered their works. You know what I mean? The acts of faith and the things that they did were noted. But I found a scripture. It wasn't 5,000, 7,000 men, but this is 1 Kings chapter 19 and 18. It says, "Yet have I left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him." So, and again, Elijah was lamenting and mourning that he was the only one, and you know that wasn't the case. He thought that all the other prophets had been killed, because at that time, there was a heavy persecution of the prophets, and the persecution of the prophets is going to really come to a climax in these times. Okay, because if you read second Ezra's, what is that? Second Ezra's 16 and 70, if I'm not mistaken. If I can pull it real quick. Yeah, Second Ezra 16 and 70, it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." So, a lot of believers in Yahweh Shem Yahshua are going to be persecuted in these times, which is that hour of temptation. But, we are striving, to be of the number of men that are counted faithful unto death, man. The scriptures say, strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. And these men that are receiving praise in the chapter that we're reading in Sirach 44, that's exactly what they did. So if you didn't have any more points, we can keep reading on that in that Sirach Baba Kushah.
Kind of. Yeah, Sirach 44:10. But these were merciful men, whose righteousness hath not been forgotten. With their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant.
It says, their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. So, hey, man, that's a beautiful thing to understand that, if you were doing right by Yahweh Shem Yahshai, he's going to preserve your household. You have a 5-year-old son or daughter, or whatever the case may be, that's that's your child. During Jacob's trouble, you know what I mean, and the persecution comes. It says that your seed is going to continually remain a good inheritance, and your children are within the covenant, which we're striving to be partakers of the new covenant, is the everlasting life, man. Okay.
Mhm.
So
And that takes faith too, because you got to remember Abraham. The faith that it took for him to still trust in the Most High when he had Isaac, which was his only son, and they had him when they were late in age, and they thought that she was barren. And then once they had him, the Most High told him to sacrifice him. So you really have to understand like how much faith he had to have to be willing to sacrifice his only son, so that but still have faith that he was going to have his seed to be like the number of the stars and the sands.
yeah, he believed, man, and that's why he was counted as a friend of the Most High.
Mhm.
So like, I don't really have any support for my back, so I was kind of stretching it. But yeah, he believed that the Most High could raise Isaac from the dead, man, if he wanted to. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
And we have
So
the I was going to say we have that same faith today. Like even though we know that 2/3 of Israel are going to be destroyed, and we ourselves might be put to death, for the testimony of Yahweh Shah, but we also have that faith that we're going to be back with those new bodies, and
right.
the 2/3 Israelite spirits, they're going to be come back, by the first fruits of Israel, by the elect, you know.
Got it. Got it. Yep. I mean, that's what the scriptures say. What is that in Isaiah 40? What, Isaiah 40 or 45? Let me see something. Talk about all Israel will be saved. Let's see here. No, it's not 40.
Isaiah 45 and
Yeah, 45.
17.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Could you read it, Bob Pasha?
For sure. This is Isaiah 45 and 17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. He shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end.
Israel shall be saved in the Lord Yahweh Shemashai with an everlasting salvation. So, as a nation, that's what 1 John chapter 2 and verse 2 is talking about, by the way, because you have a lot of Christians that say that they read the scripture in 1 John 2 and 2, where it says, and he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. That is talking about the world of Israel, man. Okay, Yahushua is the one that atones for the sins of Israel. His blood covers that, but only the 1/3 are going to be able to receive salvation, in the sense of being able to evade the destruction that's going to come to the people that are not covered by that blood, which is
Yeah.
going to be it's going to be death, man. It's going to be ultimately death. We're hoping to escape death,
Yeah.
because Salaki, go ahead.
I know, I was just agreeing with you. I was just like meditating, like as you were saying, like, we hope to escape that second death, just like
Right.
in times of old, that first death was the flood,
Hmm.
but the chosen spirits were survived through Noah, which Sirach 44 talks about, you know, and
That's right.
and um, but Noah was the only one that obtained that salvation at that time. The rest had to be put to death, be punished, and we don't want
Yep.
to take part of that punishment.
Yep. Noah and his sons, and one thing you'll see about about the flood, the time of the flood, all of Noah's forefathers had died um, before the flood. So the Lord had allowed them to to die peaceably and not have to be drowned, right?
Right.
Uh, and before He brought that judgment. So that was another thing that I saw. I think Methuselah, after Methuselah had died, it was a wrap. So once I like bringing the floodgates, so he has ways of having mercy. You know what I mean? Um, Most High, of course, he has mercy, and he just because he destroys America, don't mean that he's not gonna have mercy upon certain individuals in America. You know, just like how Lot was saved out of he was pretty much escorted out of the city. He got the first class ticket up out of there immediately. And
Mhm.
was he able to return back to his TV and his couch and living room and bed set and PS4 and all that stuff afterwards? No, the whole place was destroyed. His wife didn't even make it out.
Mhm.
Okay, so it was just
And
him and
really,
his two. Huh?
well, yeah, I was gonna go on to say, and then he had to leave his two daughters behind because of the wickedness that they committed. You know?
Well, yeah, they escaped with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They escaped with him, but that's where you get them. That's where you get them gooks from, man.
Yeah.
From his two daughters.
Yeah.
Which they were in a completely different. That's as far away from a modern woman as you can get. They women were, even though that was a bugged out decision that they made, their mindset was to preserve their father's seed because they understood the importance of the seed of the bloodline, and they understood how valuable uh you know um their 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 father, basically how valuable their father's bloodline was. But there's another word I was looking for. um Basically the offspring of the father, right? Pretty much they understood that. So they just didn't understand that it was going off by doing that. you know they probably thought they were the last two people on earth after seeing some shit like that.
Right.
So but anyway, um we can go back to to
Sirach.
see, right? Yeah.
Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 44 and 12. Their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and the glory shall not be blotted out.
Mm,
Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name liveth forevermore.
kind. Right. So again, it talks about the legacy of a man that does right by Yahweh Shem Shai. He's going to be remembered. Okay, and ultimately, the remembrance and the memorial and the glorification, all that stuff is going to come in the kingdom, right? You got uh, this statue in Newark, New Jersey, that was recently erected with George Floyd to commemorate, him getting put to death by Esau. But what did he really do except be a sacrifice? And not for Yahweh Shai. He was just put to death. You know what I mean? Just to really stir up spirits. You know what I mean? In these people, and that's where you get this. I mean, of course, Black Lives Matter was already there. It was already a movement, but putting the Egyptians against the Egyptians,
Mhm.
this is it's prophecy, man. You know what I mean? People are going to be fighting against one another, and the more divided this nation is, the more uh, ready for internal fighting they will be. So looking forward
Yes.
to that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Provoking those spirits to riot,
Hmm.
sedition among men.
Right. That's all it is. And Esau gonna come in and say, okay, look, order out of chaos. You know, if you want to be safe, you and your families. take this solution, and take this mark, take this chip, and everything will be okay.
Come.
That's his illusion. So that's it. That's the image of the beast right there. That the new world order will prevail. Through his legislature and jurisdiction over the world. Talking about the self-proclaimed white man, but it's not gonna prevail, man. I got to throw that in every lesson. So,
Come.
but yeah, we can really read through the rest of the chapter because I don't, we can go point by point, but I don't want to make it too long.
Right. Come. All right. Verse 15, it says, "The people will tell of their wisdom, and the congregation will show forth their praise." Enoch pleased the Lord and was translated, being an example of repentance to all generations.
Right. Yeah, because it talks about that in Genesis, where it mentions Enoch, which Enoch, the man, he existed and he walked, as it says, he walked with the Most High, and he was not, meaning that he was translated, he was beamed up, but that doesn't take away from, these Edomites that, try to say that the book of Enoch, is here, and, read the book of Enoch, and you can get understanding and all that. That was written, when you look into the book of Enoch that Esau says is the book of Enoch today, was written in the 5th century, by rabbinic Jews. So that's not actually biblically accurate. All the stuff that goes into fallen angels and all that stuff, all that bugged out stuff, is is it's not sound doctrine. But this part about Enoch being translated and beamed up, that is. So
Come.
had to clarify that.
Right. Verse 17, "Noah was found perfect and righteous. In the time of wrath, he was taken in exchange for the world. Therefore was he left as a remnant unto the earth when the flood came. An everlasting covenant was made with him, that all flesh should perish no more by the flood."
Right, and we already touched on that. Noah and his sons. And talked about the 8 souls. Noah, and his wife and his 3 sons and their wives, equaling 8, being the only people that were preserved, only humans that were preserved during the time of the flood. And then, every living land animal died as well, outside of the ones that were brought into the ark. And so, you can imagine, man, the anger of the Most High that he had. And, again, people think that judgment ain't gonna come upon him, but Yahushua referenced, as it was in the days of Noah, so it's gonna be in the days of coming of the Son of Man, because nobody expected the Most High to come down with wrath. He said that he will not judge the earth by water anymore. Okay,
Mhm.
but fire is a completely different element, man. And he pretty much going to be destroying people by every way outside of water, because he talks about the famine and the pestilence, and the teeth of wild beasts. Okay, all those things are going to be going on in the times that we're living in right now, 2021.
Mhm.
Okay.
Famine and plagues.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
All those
You
that
keep on.
escape, all those that escape the sword shall die by famine.
Oh man, and the scriptures say it's better to die by the sword than by famine. So it's like, damn, if you escape one death, that means you preserve to be destroyed by an even worse way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but what scripture is that says shall be like they run from a bear and a lion met 'em?
Oh,
And
that
then
should hold on. Yeah, that should be in Amos. Let me see.
yeah, that's right. Amos 9,
Uh,
and is it the ninth chapter? Is it
I don't
10?
know if it's fifth chapter or ninth chapter. I'm about to both of them real quick.
5 and 19.
Yeah, yeah. Amos chapter 5, verse 19. It says, I'll start at verse 18. It says, "Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord, Yahweh. To what end is it for you? The day of Yahweh is darkness and not light, as if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand upon a wall, and a serpent bit him." So
Yeah,
for all this, you got it out.
and that's the times that we're coming into, and the only way to truly escape the death is to be like our forefathers, trust
Hmm.
in the Lord. Matter of fact, let me grab that in Sirach 2. Yeah, this is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 10. It says, "Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?" You know? That's
Hmm.
why that's the importance of, going into the history of our forefathers, seeing how they operated and seeing what they did in times of trouble when they were getting, fed into, tossed into the lion's den or tossed into the furnace. What did they do? They trusted in Yahweh Shema Shai and they were delivered out of, those certain trials and tribulations. And then their enemies were confounded, you know? So in these times where, there's nuclear missile talks, wars and rumors of wars, there's a draft, rumors of, might being drafted, might being tossed into a prison, whatever situation you're going to find yourself in Jacob's trouble. Hey man, what it comes down to is your faith in Yahweh Shema Shai. You know,
Con, con. Yep, that's what it comes down to, man, and that's what determines whether you're an Israelite or not, for sure. That's the determining factor, I should say, and the undeniable truth of if you truly believe in Yahweh Shem Shai, no matter what you look like, it's the spirit that resides within you, you know, and we got to make sure that we lay that out because our people have been scattered across the four corners of the earth. But that's another lesson for another day. I want to continue on this and finish this up in Sirach 44.
kind of. Yeah, we're almost done with it. This is
Hmm.
Sirach 44:19. Abraham was a great father of many people. In
Hmm.
glory was there none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him.
Right,
That,
and that's what Abraham means. Father of many.
mhm.
You know.
That's heavy to say that you're in covenant with him, like with the Most High.
Hmm.
Because covenant means like a promise, a
Hmm.
contract almost.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
whenever
Did you
you have
did you? Oh, go ahead, Slaki.
like it's like a personal business,
Yep.
you know, because
Yep.
it was only made with Israel. The scriptures say, "I've not dealt so with any other nation," which means
Hmm.
we have a personal relationship with the Creator. Like this is mind blowing. Like whenever
Yeah.
you really, you know, think about it.
And when you think about this as well, multiple nations came out of Abraham. If you think about it, you had Ishmael. They came out of Abraham, and I think one or two other nations. And so, out of those nations that came out of Abraham, what particular nation was that covenant passed down to? What was that? What was that? What was the blessing? Who was the firstborn of Abraham? Isaac, right? It wasn't Ishmael, man. It was Isaac. Okay. And then who was the firstborn of Isaac? Jacob, not
Mhm.
Esau. You know,
Even
and
though Esau
Esau
came out first, but
yeah,
he just wasn't chosen. You know.
Esau was Abraham's grandson. Think about that. You Abraham alive, and I think matter of fact, actually Abraham was super old when he had Isaac. So by the time he actually had his uh his child, I think him and Rebecca, I think Isaac and Rebecca um actually had got together after I think his mom died. I gotta double check and see that chapter. But my point is, you know, they were already Abraham was already old, so by the time Jacob came around, you know, Jacob and Esau came around, hey, Esau was Abraham's grandson. He could have got the firstborn blessing, but it was passed on to who? To Jacob, who became
Mhm.
Israel. So hey man, this is a heavy chapter. You know what I mean? It says that everlasting covenant was made with Noah, and then when you go down, it talks about Abraham, and in verse 20, he kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh. Now, what was that covenant in the flesh? the circumcision. That was a token of the covenant that the Most High had made with Abraham. It says, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. Talking about what we mentioned earlier, he was told to sacrifice his son Isaac, and he obeyed. To where he was stopped at the last moment, and it was the faith that Abraham had. When you read Romans 4, the faith that Abraham had was counted unto him for righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
We can keep going. Verse 21.
Verse 21. Therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause him to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the utmost part of the land. And like we've been saying over and over throughout this lesson, but hey, repetition is the father of learning. That is passed down to Isaac, and from Isaac to Jacob, which is going to...
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Make your point, Salakia, and then I got a point in this verse, bro.
Yeah, kind of like we read in Genesis 35:10, how Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and that a nation and a company of nations shall come of thee. So that Abraham being multiplied as the stars was fulfilled through Isaac and Jacob and the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to read verse 22, or you want to?
So can you read verse 21 again, Bakusha?
It says, therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed.
Right. That's the point that I wanted right there. He's going to bless the nations in his seed. How are the nations going to be blessed in one seed? By Israel being in rulership. Israel's going to be in rulership. That is that seed. It's a singular. It's not plural, because it was multiple nations, right? But it's one nation in particular that is going to be the one that's doing the blessing. You see? So I want to get this precept in Hebrews 11. I know we talked about it. Let's see here. Hold on, let me just double check real quick. Genesis 15. What does it say? Hebrews 11 and 12. Oh, right. Okay.
I got a quick point.
I don't want to get that one. No, I'm not gonna get that one. Go ahead and get your point, Volker. I'm gonna find this precept.
This is Galatians 3:16. It says, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as
That's
of
the one
many.
I was looking for. What scripture was that?
Galatians 3:16.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't in the footnotes of my sword. I was looking for it. That's the one I was looking for. Go ahead, Volker.
And to thy seed, which is Mashiach.
Right. So can you read it again?
It says, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not.
Abraham and his seed. And then what does Paul do? He specifies the saying. The scriptures doesn't say seeds, because Abraham had many seeds. He had multiple seeds, right? That became nations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one.
Right, not many seeds. Not all the nations that came out of Abraham are going to bless the rest of the nations, but one particular seed, okay, which is the seed of Israel. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And to thy seed, which is Mashiach.
Right, and going down the lineage, even within that, because Israel and the kingdom is going to be the ones that's in rulership. But who was the one that attained that new covenant first? Yahweh Shai, through the sacrifice that he made. He is in that glorified state, and so through Yahweh Shai, the nation of Israel is going to be able to bless the rest of the world. But without Yahweh Shai, we're nothing, man. Okay. Most High took his name off of us. He's not dealing with us as a nation right now. He's only dealing with the prophets in these times. So we can finish that last two verses. I just want to touch on that point right there.
You want me to read 21?
22. Oh yeah, if we didn't finish it, yeah, we can read it again.
Yeah, I don't remember if I did, but I'll
Okay.
just go ahead and read it. Verse 21. Therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the utmost part of the land. With Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham his father's sake the blessing of all men, and the
Right.
covenant,
Right.
and made it.
Oh, Salaki, I was gonna say, it says cause them to inherit from sea to sea and from the river to the utmost part of the land, talking about, the land of Israel. You know,
Mhm.
but go ahead.
And made it rest upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing, and gave him an inheritance, and divided his portions among the 12 tribes, did he part them. So again, it's specifying that it's not, it's not about being a Hebrew, it's about being an Israelite,
Hmm.
because Hebrew just means that stemming from Abraham, you know,
Okay.
but Israelite is, from that heritage Abraham, Isaac to Jacob, whose name was later to Israel and was the progenitor of the 12 tribes.
That's right. Your pod, brother, the water. The water. I think we
Con.
did an in-depth synopsis on it successfully. And I think we broke it down good. I mean, that was all the points that I had. I mean, I guess we can. Did you have any other precepts or anything?
Um, yeah, I got, I mean, it's just like remember the days of old, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
This is Deuteronomy 32:7. It says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. It says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
Hmm.
So I mean, remembering our history is good because you can. It's kind of like that saying. I forget how it goes exactly, but um, it's like uh, it's smart to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even smarter to learn from everybody else's mistakes.
Mm.
Because when you go into the history, not only do you see how the righteous men lived righteous lives, but you also see the accounts of when wicked men were punished. You want to avoid, their doings. So it's like, it's really good to go into the history and see where Israel went off at and abstain from that, and seeing what, certain righteous men did right, and, uh, uh, do those things in like manner, you know?
Con, con. Yep, I agree. In the, I was gonna say sad, but it was written. The thing about it is that Israel's not gonna adhere to what Yahweh Shem Shai as a nation. Israel as a nation not gonna adhere to what Yahweh Shem Shai is telling them. It's that's the point of the second covenant, because you're only gonna have a portion of obedience. And even us, in these times, we're not even satisfied with our performance here, as far as the level of obedience that we're able um, to achieve, in these bodies is limited, and is insufficient. And we desire to be perfected. We desire to be, in unison with the Most High's will at all times. And those are the ones that are going to receive the blessing first. The ones that actually want it. So um, I think we pretty much touched on all points. And you know, if you don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and close it out, bro.
Yeah, you can go close this out, bro.
Okay. Hey, well, Lord willing, it's an edifying lesson. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.
Shalom.